And so we headed off to the hospital, and in the car, Shauna kept on. I was just watching the clock, and she kept on calling out the numbers. And eventually, they were like at 1 minute, a little over a minute, and a minute on and a minute off. And so I knew we were getting close. So every time we hit an exit, like at 167 and 405, at the joint there, we actually pulled over, and some guy honked at us because he thought we were being jerks. And then I pulled off and said, do we want to go to Seattle, where we'd go past two really good hospitals, Swedish and also this other trauma hospital, or do we want to go the other way? And we'd already passed the south exit for
We already passed Valley Medical, so.
Valley Medical, and so it was a big decision: do we go downtown Seattle and potentially get caught in the downtown core on I-5, or do we go 405? And then I really couldn't decide. I was just too probably concerned and overwhelmed. And so Sean said, you just make a call. So I said, well, let's just go the other way. I knew there's a hospital in Bellevue, and the 405 probably would be open. There's more of a chance of 405 being open than I-5 in case.
Oh, because of the game. That was that was the thing.
There's a big game going on.
We didn't know if there was or not.
And even the HOV lanes jammed up. So anyway, so we headed down 405, and at one point, Sean was really starting to come closer and closer.
I almost thought that
she felt she had to push at one point. And I was doing like 80 miles an hour. I was driving like a maniac, flashing lights and trying to get people out of the HOV lanes, doing 55. It's my right, I'm going to force you not to speed. And so anyway, I was just, and basically, just driving like a crazy man. So we got to the...
But it didn't feel like it. Everything felt smooth and calm.
Yeah, because I was trying to be calm because I didn't want to get her excited, but I was
I had my seat down so I couldn't see. And,
yeah.
And I was just relaxed on my side. Just doing my breathing.
And then at one point I go, and then we got to the point where we had to cross that bridge, and we didn't know if the bridge was jugged up or if it was closed or a boat was going through. We'd be stuck there for 20 or 30 minutes and end up delivering on the 520 bridge, or should we go to the Bellevue Hospital? And we both felt we needed to go across the bridge. There wasn't much of a decision there, so we just peeled to the left and headed over the bridge. And we got there, and I could see ahead, and the sun was setting, or it was dusk. And anyway, it looked straight ahead and everything looked great. So I was like, phew. And it had been a nice day, and I thought, oh great, the bridge going over to the UW Medical Center could be up too, because there's a lot of boat traffic going through on the nice days. There's still boats coming through, and I was pretty concerned about that. But anyway, we headed over there, and everything was fine. We hit the UW Medical Center. I pulled in and put the flashers on, and Shauna was having them fast and furious, and I was thinking, man, we could lose a baby right here. Because, you know, if her blood pressure's up and who knows what, or he's, you know, sitting down really low and he's got a kink cord or something, you know, we could lose him right here. And I thought, we've got to get her in there and get her checked out and find out everything's fine, then I'll be fine. So we raced, I grabbed a chair and got Sean into it and raced her upstairs, and they checked her in, and it took a long time, because...
I don't think they realized, because I was so calm, they didn't realize... Well, they couldn't check me, and
yeah, and they really never got somebody in there.
They didn't get my history. Nobody knew me, so they didn't really know my history. Oh, we did call before we left.
Yeah, I called. Yeah, and I asked if the Nazi was going to be there. That was the number one question, because if the Nazi was going to be there and deliver this thing and force her to a C-section, there's no way in heck I was going to have that Nazi there. I don't care how, if Shauna was at 10 centimeters, that Nazi probably tried doing a C-section. I don't know, she'd be bloody Nazi. And Kathy not in that. If I ever meet her, I just don't.
She was on call today, but I didn't see her.
Good. Yeah. So I'm telling you right now, we would have. Oops, we're just getting too close together, and we would have gone over to one of the other hospitals and delivered it just fine. At some other hospital in Bellevue or somewhere in Valley, anywhere, but that hospital with that Nazi on call, because she would have. Oh, you need a C-section. Because it was a matter of pride at that point. She was going to look like an idiot if we delivered this baby naturally, and she was going to have that baby C-section right now, stat. And, that's the other thing, too, is Corey took the blood test again that Wednesday night, going back that Wednesday night, and everything looked fine, because she said stat, she wanted in 40 minutes. And everything looked fine on the blood test, and going back to that Wednesday. So there was no concern on our part, and she felt fine about things, quite frankly. Didn't cry when we left, and I asked her, I said, you gonna cry? And she goes, no. But anyway, so they get Sean in there, and then I just kind of took up residence on a little stool and got it all squared away for me, sitting next to her bed, and they got her bed adjusted, and she started having really strong contractions. And so they finally got in there, and somebody finally came in and checked her out.
Oh, my water broke. One
Oh, yeah.
contraction was so strong, my water broke, and because they'd been giving me all these horror stories, I kind of panicked. I knew my water, I'm pretty sure the water broke, but I remember asking the nurse, can you just please check and make sure it's just water? Because I had visions of,
Blood.
hemorrhaging and bleeding to death. I mean,
They fill your head so full of garbage.
where I should have known it was just my water from all the other times it broke, but I just had to have that assurance.
And so they checked her, and sure enough, it was the water. And I was still up, and I went down to the car and got bags, and I moved the car back down to the garage.
You didn't do that till
No,
after.
I didn't. I went down and got something. I can't remember what it was. Maybe it was the camera. But I didn't want to move the car. I just wanted to run down just fast enough to get that. I didn't want to spend much time. So anyway, I ran down and got something, and made a phone call. I can't remember to who. And
Maybe that was after.
and then anyway, so Shauna started having strong contractions.
Yeah, I was in
And they-
transition basically.
And they finally came in and checked her, and she was at 5 centimeters and 100% effaced and very soft and ripe and all that stuff, and looked like she was ready to go. But Shauna got like, oh man, I'm only at 5 centimeters. And I
Yeah,
was
that
like,
really
oh, no.
disheartened me because I was under so much pain, and my blood pressures even correlated. Today I
Yeah.
saw them, and they correlated with, pushing. They came back down when I first arrived.
What did they come
weren't-
down to?
They
blood
they hit the 90s for a while.
Oh,
They
okay.
were actually in the 90s, and then, but when I was in transition, I was in the 100s, which was the most painful part. And I remember feeling like I was not in as good of control as I wanted to be. Eric was holding my hand, and I was focusing on a light, and I just remember I had to just stroke my hair because otherwise I'd want to tense up because of the contractions. They were
So-
just pretty. Anyway,
So they checked her, and they said, oh, everything looks good. And they checked her scar, reached up in there and felt around, and said, oh, everything feels good up there. And by that point, the midwife had come in. She had been delivering a couple other babies that night.
actually, I don't think she had because they had me pushing before she came in, and she said she wouldn't have had me push. She would have had the baby. If it would have just been her, she would have had the baby. Even though the baby's heart rate had come down.
Oh yeah, he looked really strong. He's at 140, 150 when they got the monitor on him.
But she
And-
says when a baby comes down that fast, she usually would have me not push no more my contractions just to kind of let the baby's heart rate come up. But doctors are trained, you gotta push with every contraction.
Yeah, so at that point, so Shauna started to feel like she had to take a dump.
Yeah, I said, why do I feel like I have to go to the bathroom?
I thought,
And
oh no, she's gonna poop all over the bed sheets.
yeah,
it's gonna
that's what
stinky.
I thought too. I really thought I had to.
And it's gonna be this
Yeah,
just huge mess because they hadn't been able to give her an enema or do any of that stuff. Once they realized, then suddenly, well, in 20 minutes or 20 some odd minutes
18 minutes. I went
18
from
minutes, you
5
went from-
centimeters to.
to full 10, and that baby was coming out, and I was like, I think we can do this. For the first time, I was from cautious optimistic to very optimistic, thinking, oh, this is awesome, this is happening. Exactly
They're all
like,
rushing around like,
yeah, 'cause, I mean,
She went from 5 to 10 in just 18 minutes, and the midwife was still delivering, and so there was a resident doctor.
yeah, they were
a
getting
redhead.
everything ready. They were getting the bed ready for the baby. They're getting the little thing set up. They just weren't ready for us, even though we'd called in before. And suddenly, that baby was coming, and they were,
And they barely got me hooked up to mag sulfate when I started pushing.
yeah. And then she had the urge to push, and
they
like
were
she had to
telling
take a
me-
poop.
Yeah, and so they were trying to help me breathe so I wouldn't.
Oh yeah, and Shauna started panicking. She got just wild-eyed, and they put the oxygen mask on her because the baby's heart rate started going down a little bit.
That's
Nice.
probably because I was not breathing
Yeah.
because of the pain. Instead
Yeah.
of going like that, I just kind
Yeah,
of
you were like,
stopped. I think that's when I stopped.
Yeah, and then I said, okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Eric helped me
and I was
breathe.
helping you, and they were kind of coaching me. And then once I got it, then I was able to help Shauna. I was kind of not panicking because I felt calm the whole time. But at the same time, the thought kept going through my mind. Maybe something's going to happen. And when they hooked up to the mag sulfate, I thought, this is going to slow it down. This is it. And then it's going to end up being a C-section. But she was already so far along that baby was coming out. And her blood pressure, I remember looking over it, it was like 155 over 110, I was thinking.
Or 105.
or yeah, 105, and I was like, oh no. I started to kind of panic, but it'd been up that high when they were telling her the Wednesday before that the baby was going to die.
And that
blah, blah,
high
blah.
with my other two babies when I didn't have
Yeah.
the two. Well, no, I did.
Yeah, so it was ridiculous. They,
And other women, it gets up that high too when they're
yeah.
in labor and feeling pain.
And so
Because-
then I remember I was thinking, okay, am I gonna like stay back by the head at this point, or am I gonna stay down and kind of watch things? And I was so pumped full of adrenaline that it was actually working, and the baby's head was actually starting to show. And the midwife came in and said, "Look, he's starting to push." And Shauna's perineum was starting to bulge a little bit because his head was coming down through. I thought, this is happening. And then his heart rate started to drop at that point. I thought, okay, possible scenario. He's going to get halfway birthed, then his cord's going to get pinched or something, his heart rate's going to go to 0, we're going to end up losing the baby. They're going to have to cut him out in pieces. And anyway, I just thought, hopefully this does not happen, although I felt calm the entire time. It was just amazing that I wasn't just freaking out, or when I started seeing blood and stuff. And
Yeah,
faint.
Mr. Faint during the epidural on Neil, and yet he's watching everything happen.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me.
And so at that
That's
point,
a miracle.
yeah, that's almost as much of a miracle as the baby. And so anyway, at that point, Shauna was pushing and she's looking wild-eyed, but and Dallin's blood pressure or heart rate had gone down from that strong 140, 150 down to about 60. But anyway, they put her over on her side, and then it came back up, and then it went up to about 110, and then dropped back down. I thought, oh no, we could, end up having a C-section, and they could lose him because he's halfway birthed, and have to pull him out. But at that point, he said it'd just be progressing, and she was actually telling Shauna at that point to slow down and not push when she felt the urge to push. And Shauna's like, I got this urge, and she got just wild-eyed, but she was breathing with that mask on, and I just was helping her breathe. And once she started to breathe, everything was fine.
And in between contractions, I remember them saying, "You got to take deep breaths." And as soon as I did that, because I hadn't been taking deep breaths because I was tense, then the baby's heart rate came up. So it was being affected by the way I was breathing, which I wonder if that's what caused the nails to go. Is that I didn't have good coaches telling me to breathe.
Yeah. And so basically at that point I was just kind of, I remember touching Shauna, she said, like that, because at one point, you were in a lot of pain, and that's what those books had told her, and she relayed that to me, so that was good. So I didn't touch her, and not light touch, it was light touch that was bugging her. And so it was massage that she wanted, and it was happening so fast at that point, we didn't have time to know what was going on. But the midwife was at that point telling her, don't push, and little Dallin's head was pushing on Mom's perineum, and it started to bulge out. She goes, look, you got your head right there, and he'd come off the monitor at that point, off the belly monitor, so they screwed the scalp monitor that checks his blood oxygen content.
I didn't realize that. They'd taken him off the tummy monitor because he was so far down.
Yeah, he was so far down they couldn't get a good reading. In fact, it kind of freaked me out because that's right when his heart rate went down to about 40 or 50, and all of a sudden he was going so far down the birth canal.
Could you see him go down?
I didn't see anything until they said look, and I looked around and
oh, so you couldn't tell from my stomach that he was...
No, not at all. I couldn't even tell even after you'd had him that you'd had him.
Okay.
Because you were still so big.
Yeah, okay.
But it's almost as big.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so the monitor that was strapped around your belly, he had gone off that, and they couldn't get it located, and they just said, oh, his heart rate's going down. And for about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, so they got that thing screwed in there, there was nothing, and I was just thinking, this boy could be dying on us right now. And I wasn't freaking out, but I'll tell you, I was sure going, this could be it. He could be stuck in there. I was thinking C-section, but Shauna was doing okay, and she was actually trying not to push at that point.
Yeah, I was doing my panting again.
Yeah, panting.
To keep me from pushing, because I tell you,
there's nothing.
That push, the urges were so strong, and it felt so good to give into those urges, and they weren't painful. I mean, it was pressure. I mean, it was like giving, like having a huge bowel movement, except I could feel it from one end of my, knee to the other, one end of my bottom to the other,
It's a
Both
huge dump.
parts,
Dallin's just a big, huge dump. Down
but it
and
was
up.
just the same feeling. I mean,
So no doubt it was tickling that same nerve
yeah.
that shows up in the bowel right down there. So anyway, that was,
Well, they had me get 3 positions, and so by this
Yeah.
time I was at the, what, was that the third, was I still on my hands and knees pushing, or had they moved me back over to my back?
I think you back over on your side. Oh yeah, and I was holding your leg now.
Well, that was the
I was,
first position.
I was holding your leg up, yeah, and then
Yeah.
they put you on your
The hands and
knees,
knees.
and then
They-
they got
they-
you on your back. I can't remember
Yeah,
at that
kind of
point.
half sitting.
Yeah, and then we were just waiting, and then the midwife was down there checking. I'm not sure what she was checking. She was checking probably clearances to make sure that there was enough room for him to come all the way out. She was telling her, don't push, hold off. And I think through at least one, if not two, urges to push, Shauna had to hold off. And then finally she said, okay.
And I had to use my
His
knee
heart
as
rate.
leverage, and that really helped.
Yeah, and her leg was cramping up. She's going, my leg's cramping.
Well, that was at the first, when
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
on my side.
Yeah.
But then, but when when I used my knee as leverage, that really helped. That was when I was really able to push. That was a good tip from the midwife.
Huh.
That
So,
worked.
so then, said, okay, Shauna, you can now push. And she gave like one other good push. And I think on the
Then
second,
they said, you're almost there, just,
Yeah. and his head popped out, and I was just like freaking out because here comes my little guy. And I thought, well, and I told the midwife, now when I was born, my mom said that they had to bring one shoulder through, then the head, then the other shoulder. Because I had such wide shoulders, doctors always having trouble. And I think I had to use forceps. And so the midwife just gave me this look like, forceps? I don't think she knew how to use them or wasn't trained with them anyway. And she was probably just thinking, oh, great. But this guy just, once that head got through, she just had to give him another push, and boom, out he came.
no, I think
then-
his head was, I think most heads, Sister Emsweiler today said most heads were 13 inches, normal,
Centimeters.
and centimeters, and his was 14, I think he told me.
Wow.
And then hers was 15, Mike,
Oh,
and he was just,
monster. So anyway, then he came out, and he was just hanging there by the, not hanging there, but they're holding him by his cord. And I just remember looking at him, he's pretty purple. And I remember looking at him and thinking,
with
come on,
red. I
breathe,
remember.
breathe. Yeah, well, he was purple at that point.
Oh, okay.
And then they started doing the suction thing in his
Yeah.
mouth, and then he just kind of got
Got
mad.
red.
Yeah, he really didn't scream or cry like you always see or hear in the movies or whatever, but
It's kind of
he,
a, it says, yeah.
yeah, and he just really wasn't that angry of a baby. He's just very laid back, sweet little
And that's
boy.
when I saw him, was when, I don't think
They
I
hadn't cut the cord
realized
yet.
that he had, well, yeah, I guess I
And-
was in
at that point-
denial
at
that
that
he had
point-
come out, in
Yeah.
a way, because I hadn't seen him and I hadn't heard him, and that
Yeah.
everybody was happy and
Yeah.
all that.
Oh, I was jumping up and down. I was grabbing Shauna's hand. I was just so excited.
Yeah.
I could not
Yeah,
believe.
that's how I knew I had him, is because of Eric. Otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thrilled. It was the most thrilling thing I think I've ever done in my life. Just thrilling. I've done more exciting things probably, but thrilling. That was just the greatest thrill to see my wife finally do it, and to think that all of that effort had paid off, and she was so brave and such a good woman for wanting to bring put her life on the line and pain and how easy it was. I was just in awe. I was just totally in
Yeah,
awe.
we were really blessed to have
Adrenaline rush.
everything. The pushing took 28 minutes, transition from 5 centimeters to 10 took 18.
It's just amazing.
Of
And
course,
that's,
I'd been in labor though. Who
We-
knows how many weeks?
we knew that the labor had to go slowly so
Yeah.
Shauna's body could progress to that point, so she wouldn't get stuck on that failure to progress thing. And we knew that he needed to be not too big, just the right
And
size.
the waters needed to break
The
near
waters
the
needed to
end.
break near the end, and because Camille's broke early, and that caused things to kind of probably happen.
The Neils broke early, or they were broken
They
early.
were broken at the hospital. Yeah, broken early, right? And we knew that they had to break naturally, and if they forced it, then it might slow things down. No pitocin, no drugs, just good old al natural, and no C-section. Because Shauna wanted to see, or no spinal tap, because Shauna wanted to make sure she could feel if something weird happened down on her previous scarring.
If there was any rupture.
Yeah, and so sure enough, everything went exactly as it had to happen, or we felt that it had to happen for this to be successful. It was amazing. In fact, we almost delivered on the side of the road. And that was the other amazing thing, is that
Well, I don't
pushes
know.
and things didn't happen. soon. It was about 2 hours and 20 minutes from the time we left home that it delivered, or maybe less.
Yeah,
It
we
only
left
took about
9:30.
25 to 35 minutes to get there, because I was just flying. We got there a little after 10, and he was born an hour and a half later, so yep, it was less than 2 hours from the time we left home.
Yeah.
And 2.5 hours from the time it was at 8-minute contractions, because it was only a half an hour when it went from 8 minutes to down to 5 minutes to 2 minutes. And so it was a half an hour from the 8 minutes, and then we left home, and it was about two hours from the time we left home to the time that boy was delivered, about 9:30.
Yeah, 9:30 to 11:30.
Yep. And I remember it was like 90 something, 9:01 or 9:08. I remember counting out, Shauna calling up the numbers, and it was right around 9 o'clock, and I remember thinking, okay, 8:58 to 9 o'clock, 9:01 or something there. I was thinking, wait, these are getting really close. And so it was right around 9 o'clock when it went from that 8 minutes down to 7, down to 5, down to 2, and we scrambled. So it went perfectly according to the plan we knew that it had to follow. And so it was a miracle, in my opinion, in my mind, even though her mother and others have had amazingly fast births. Her sister, her half-sister, has half of her genetic makeup. And my mom's pretty easygoing that way, although I don't know that I contribute anything, but we knew that it had to, if it did that, I knew if Sean could just do it this once, and we could have as many children as we wanted, probably, and everything would be just fine. And sure enough, everything did. It was a miracle, and Dallin's a little miracle.
He's starting to wake up.
So that's probably why he'll have the name Ephraim. Oh, and before I sign out, one of the things that one of the reasons his little name should be possibly Ephraim or Jacob, middle name, is because the blessings that Sean was promised with, and also that it's interesting to note that one of the things is that we were reading a book. Grandma Wood called up and said, "We got this great book called Ephraim," and we both kicked it around, but we just didn't feel right about Ephraim.
Because the name sounds so archaic.
Even though her grandpa has the name Ephraim, and I think there's one Ephraim on my side. I'm gonna check with Grandma Wood. But anyway, we read that book, and in there it talked in Genesis 48 about how Ephraim was receiving his blessing at the hand of Israel, Jacob, and the two sons of Joseph, and the firstborn was Manasseh, but the father switched, and or grandpa switched, and gave the birthright to Joseph, and said, and the reason he was named Ephraim is because he was the second born in the land of affliction. And when I read that, or in the land of affliction was in this land of the heathens among the Egyptians, and we are definitely among the heathens here in Seattle, and with the whole Capitol Hill and the whole Scout thing, and just all the horrible mess we live around.
Part 2. Stay tuned.
And so, yeah, stay tuned. And so the reason we're going to Montana is to get back to, at least hopefully get back to some sane people, sane thinking, American values, and not socialist bullcrap that we have to deal with here. And so this isn't a forum for that. So anyway, so the amazing thing is it seems like his middle name will probably be Ephraim. We still have to fast and pray and think about it, ponder about it. But another thing is that I read this thing about how parents are often given inspiration, including John. In the case of John the Baptist, his dad didn't like the name John, and he got schooled, and so maybe this is what his name is supposed to be, because of the blessings that his mother was blessed with the breast of the woman that come through from whom I feel very strongly about. And the reason that Sean and I are together, I believe, is because of the house of Israel and the blessings of Ephraim. And so another thing that, and Sean, if you can come over really fast.
I am. I just want to see.
Red
Okay.
dot on. We're going to do a living will and testament while we're here, and this is a legally binding document, even though it's not a document. You have two people that are sound mind and body, or at least we claim to be. And anyway, and so we need to do a living will and testament, or whatever, a will. And the person that, and if we're going to mark it on the tape so that it can be found, that it's Dallin's birth story in our will. But anyway, we've already decided as a couple, and Shauna, you can confirm this or say no if you don't agree to anything, since it is a legal document. That if in the event of the death or the incapacitation of one or both of us, and or death of one or both of us, the children, if they're surviving, all three of them will go to live with, first of all, Aunt Leanne.
In the event
Leanne-
of both of us.
Leanne Morgan,
not
right,
me.
in the event of both, right.
Yeah, not one of us.
Or the death of one and the severe incapacitation
okay,
of the other.
there you go.
The children do not go to the state. They will go to live with their Aunt Leanne Morgan and Russ Morgan, unless they're divorced or unless they're having severe financial or marital difficulties, or are not in good standing with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In which case they are not, do not fit those criteria, and then they need to go to live with their Aunt Erin and Uncle Joe Krozak in Bellingham, and be raised by them. And any monies from Boeing stock, from life insurance, if it's a plane wreck, any monies that come from a $1 million life insurance policy, due to the credit cards that we use to book the tickets, will go to a fund which will, a trust, which will allow minimum maintenance, which is standard in the insurance industry or in the child care industry, probably $5,000 to $10,000 a year for each child, to care for them, to take care of their maintenance, their school, their private school if need be. We would prefer that if they have that money available, and it's available also to pay for private school. Up until the time that they graduate from high school, and then all of their college until they're of the age of 25. All of their college needs to be taken care of, and that includes a car for each of them. It doesn't have to be new. In fact, we prefer that it's not. And their insurance and all of their basic living expenses taken care of until the age of 25, at which time they receive a full disbursement. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's 21 or 25.
25. When they're fully conscious adults, even though at 18 they're considered adults. 25 they wouldn't receive a full disbursement, or unless 25, regardless of whether they're single or married. And then the remainder of the money divided among how many children we have, 3 or 4 or 5 at the time, if that does occur. Whatever,
it's
it would
not
be divided equally among all the children.
If it's not a plane wreck, then good luck, guys.
Yeah. and there are monies. Boeing, there's the voluntary investment plan. If the land in 43 Eagle View Drive in Kyla, Montana, needs to be sold, depending on the trustees and the wishes of the trustees, and that money can be divided equally, or it can be held on to until the children are 18 or 25 at the discretion of the trustee, and then sold to the children. Those that take care, who are in charge of taking care of the children and caring for them, and maintaining their needs until the time that they're 18 and they're off on their own to go off to college, they may not have control of the money. It needs to be a separate trustee that takes care of the money. Although they can have what is necessary between $5,000 and $10,000 in today's dollars per child per year for maintenance of those children. So until the money's gone, if the money's gone at the time of college, then the children are on their own to take care of themselves via jobs or whatever they can get.
Do we spend
With scholarships.
$5,000 on the kids a year?
No, but that's not to take care of them.
It's plenty. That's I mean, 10,000.
Yeah, well they'll
Too
buy brand
much
new
unless
clothes.
they're teenagers. Or
Yeah,
something.
well, we don't want it to create a hardship, and that can help them buy a house or buy a larger home or add on to their existing house, and they can use that money at their discretion, between $5,000 and $10,000, minimum $5,000, depending on how much money is there, and and whatever the standard is for maintaining a child in today's dollars, and then. And Dad has a life insurance policy on him of 3 times his salary. And then if it's a work-related death, then there is other considerations that Boeing has to pay. And all of the information, a lot of the information is contained either in a file on insurance, in the oak filing cabinet in the office, or in the filing cabinet the fireproof safe in the bedroom, inside the headboard armoire. And both of us are sane.
And who's gonna know to listen to this?
They'll have to find
How will
it.
they find
Well,
it?
it's going to be written on the tape.
Yeah, but then how will they know to listen
Well,
to
they'll
this
dig through our safety deposit box.
after the kids have already been
Yeah.
given to somebody?
No,
Then
no,
they'll
no,
find
no,
this
no,
out.
no, because somebody will come and have to look through all of our stuff, and they'll see that. So anyway, and we're gonna write this out and transcribe it somewhere and have it notarized, but this is a legal document because we are
Yeah.
both here, you are
Yeah.
seeing our mouths move
It's 12:55.
on July 25th, 2001, and we're both sane but tired, and we have 3 children right now: Camille, Kimberlyn Wood, Neil Moulton Wood, and Dallin Ephraim Wood. And or TBD, we're still working on the middle name, but Dallin, who is 2 weeks old. And upon and if once Camille is at the age of 25, then she would become the executor of the estate if there's any remaining estate that has not been dispersed at that time. Although it all should be dispersed. Once Camille is 25, then she would be able to act as the executor for the others that have not, or handle any legal issues for the others that are not yet 25 and have not yet received their disbursement. Up until that point, a executor can be designated by those that are caring for the kids, whether it be Leanne Morgan or Aaron Crossack. And that's our living
Yep,
will and testament.
that's what we want.
And that this is legally binding, and we're both in agreement. Shauna just has given agreement. Of course, I've given agreement. And that's it. Hopefully we don't have to ever use this.
Yeah.
Yep. And if the timber frame is built and the timber frame's built,
Then what?
then and Shauna's still alive, and if something happens to me, then she obviously is executive of everything. But that's not going to happen, so take care of yourself.
So good night.
Good night. We love you. Love you, kids. Have a fabulous life. Okay. Oh, and one real quick thing, since this tape may sit on a shelf, and this guy needs to eat anyway, I want to get a shot of him.
Yeah.
This little fuzzy-headed peach boy. Hey, Dad, what you doing? You're messing with me.
Get him closer. Dallin Wood.
Dallin Moulton Wood, tired boy. Mr.
Dallin
Sleepyhead.
Moulton Wood?
Excuse me, Dallin Ephraim Wood. Dallin Jacob
Okay,
Wood.
now show his profile. Turn him more. Yeah. Oh, I love his profile. If his arms are in the way. There. Oh, that is precious. Here, let me telephoto up a little bit. Oops, wrong way. Okay. Oh, cute.
He's a little eater and a sleeper. He loves his sleep. And that's it.